After 2.5 years and getting paid by Walmart a little over $250,000, I made a net of $37,000. That's about $1,200 a month. About 2.5 years ago, I got an email from someone with a Walmart.com email address. It was like 2 sentences long. It said, "Hey, Evan, we'd love to talk to you about carrying your product in our stores." I thought it was a scam. I didn't even answer for like 2 or 3 days. Then I figured, what the heck, right? So I said, "Hey, I get a lot of crazy emails. Like, is this really Walmart?" Yeah, they kind of laughed at me and said, "Yes, I'm the buyer for arts and crafts at Walmart. And let's jump on a Zoom call and talk about carrying your product." Holy crap. It was real. How did they find me? Is this really the opportunity that I think it is? Because I've always envisioned retail being the holy grail for people that sell products. So I said yes, and I set up a Zoom call, and I prepared. Now, real quick, I work with business owners that sell products inside Operator Academy, and every time somebody brings up retail or thinking about going into retail, I tell this story. So I figured I would just tell the whole thing once with real numbers so it can be used to prevent the mistakes that I made. Now, let me give you some context about where I was at in my business, because I was in the middle of the suck, redoing our products, our formulations, and I was downsizing the team because I was overspending on payroll. And I was getting my butt back in the craft room to make a bunch of videos so we could have good ads and good content and actually get attention for our product. Now, at the time, I was already selling into Hobby Lobby and Michaels. So I had some experience, but I also understood some of the pitfalls there. So I went into this Zoom conversation armed with that experience and also keenly aware of how precious that cash flow was. So I jump on this Zoom call with the buyer from Walmart. It was real person in Bentonville, the whole deal. It was just her and me. She asked me to tell her a little bit about my company, so I did. I made sure to keep it short and sweet, and then I started asking her questions to build some rapport. And about 20 minutes later, she said, "All right, sounds good. Let's move forward and go ahead and put you in all 4,000 stores." I honestly didn't know what to say. But my operator brain kicked in and I started thinking, okay, 10 units a store, 4,000 stores, because I had done my research and I knew how many stores they had. I'm like, okay, that's 40,000 units. 40,000 units, yeah. You see, I had run into some supply chain challenges working with other retailers. So I said, "Hold on, buyer. Would you be open to the idea of doing a test set first? How about 500 stores to start off with? You see, I really want to work with you long term, and I want our relationship to start off on the right foot. And I'm worried that I might make a mistake if we do 4,000 stores right away. And I really want to work my way in slowly." Honestly, I think the buyer respected me more for making that decision. She said, "Great, no problem. We'll start off with 500 stores. We'll get you set up. I'm going to send you a couple of emails and you can begin the process." So I said, "Awesome. Okay." I bring this up because it's really important. I did the smart thing, the disciplined thing, and I really want you to remember that bit right there. Now, you might be listening to me talk about this and say, "Holy cow, good for you. This is amazing." But what you don't know is the absolute whirlwind grind that I had just said yes to. Let's break it down. In order to get my products into Walmart, I had to jump through a lot of hoops. The first thing that I had to do was make sure that my packaging was ready for retail. I also had to submit all my safety information to a third-party testing lab to get it vetted, tested, and my packaging reviewed. And it cost me about $2,000. Cash that I had to spend up front. I had to research it, figure out which lab to use, and make sure they worked with Walmart. I had to submit the testing request forms. I had to import all the data. It was miserable. Turns out my packaging's okay. We passed our testing, but it wasn't ready for retail shelves. You see, Walmart required me to put an RFID sticker on my packaging for loss prevention. So, in order for my product to be ready, I had to put a sticker over the barcode on every single marker that had an RFID tag embedded and had our UPC code, as well as a little Made in USA sticker on there. Where do you get those? I had no idea. So now I had to start looking for companies that could make me an RFID barcode sticker, and then I had to hand apply them to every single marker. Think, okay, that's not so bad. It's not so bad. I wasn't even close to being ready yet. I had to get set up with all the forms. I had to get Retail Link dialed in. And then I had to submit spreadsheets. Walmart makes you submit spreadsheets and upload them CSV file style to the website. It's nothing like Amazon. It is so much harder. Then comes shipping. You see, with Hobby Lobby, it's easy. They send me a PO, I ship to their DC on a pallet, very straightforward. With Michaels, a little bit more complicated, right? I still have to kit, do inner packs and vendor packs and things like that, but it's still like not that bad. With Walmart, I had to ship almost every single week very specific amounts of vendor packs to varying DCs, and the POs would come in like $500 to $1,000 at a time. So instead of one big PO for like 40,000 units, they're sending me like 100 POs for like 400 units, 40 units, even sometimes 6 units. Completely different way of doing business. Now, I have to pay for the shipping, which means if I was to ship specifically small parcel delivery to all of these DCs, it would eat me alive in shipping costs. So what do? I reached out to a friend of mine who sells to Walmart as well, and I said, hey, Ryan, I am losing it here. I don't even know how to even begin figuring out the shipping thing. He said, Evan, you need a consolidator. I'm like, okay, what is that? It's basically a 3PL that specializes in retail. That's all they do. They're already shipping to all the big retailers, including Walmart. And so what I do is I send them my inventory, they kit it, they package it up, and then they put it on these trucks, and I pay for the amount of space I'm taking up in the container. So this way I can get more discounted rates and I can make sure the products are always shipped properly. Now I got to find a consolidator. Okay, I'll find a consolidator. I actually found a really good one, and that whole setup process was a nightmare. More spreadsheets, more uploading. I talked to the salesperson, then I talked to the onboarding specialist, and then there's the kitting team and the VAS team, and then the shipping team, and then, you know, I have an account rep and all these different things, and I had pages and pages of notes in Notion and like barely able to sort through it. And I hadn't even sold a product yet. I didn't even have AI back then, so it's not like I could just run it all through ChatGPT and figure it out. No, it wasn't a thing. So here I am, beating my head against a wall, trying to figure this out, staying up late, not understanding the terms, the numbers, and all the stuff they're talking about. I'm like literally Googling the definition of certain things while they're talking to me on the phone, like, oh, yeah, sounds great. Recording every call, just trying to sort through this data. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're set up. Finally, it's working. Oh, kidding. I can't just ship them a marker in a box. I can't just ship them 40 markers in a box. I have to follow their packaging guidelines, which means I have to take that marker that I've put the specific RFID barcode on, and then I have to grab 6 of them. I take 2 and I put them in a small cardboard box. Then I take 3 of those small cardboard boxes and I put them in a bigger cardboard box. Then I tape it shut using the required 2-inch clear tape, and then I have to put a label on the top and a label on the side. The same every time. And those become my vendor packs, which contain 6 eaches, which contain 3 inner packs. It was a whole thing. And nobody really tells you how to do this. I had to like beg the consolidator to like work with me. Okay, how do I set this up? What do you recommend? How should I put these together? I had to spend $10,000 on cardboard. It's a lot of money on cardboard just to be thrown away so I could meet the packaging guidelines. Okay. So I've got the vendor pack set up. Now the POs start to come through, but how does Walmart talk to the consolidator? It's not like I'm going to intercept it all the time and just be like, hey, we got another one. It doesn't work like that. It's all systems based. Turns out I needed an EDI, electronic data interchange. It's basically a company that exists to connect the shipper to the retailer. It's crazy. Walmart sends a PO to the EDI. EDI sends a message to the consolidator. They ship it. They invoice the EDI. The EDI invoices Walmart. $700 a month. And there's only like 2 of them. And the biggest one is incredibly expensive. They literally charge me per page and per connection. So I had no choice. I had to use them. I'm like, okay. So now I start spending money on the EDI. I'm spending money with the Consolidator to kit up all these vendor packs and get it done right. Still haven't made a sale. But I had no choice. I didn't want to screw it up, because if you screw up, you get chargebacks. Chargebacks suck. That's when the retailer's like, hey, you didn't do this right, we're taking money from you. It's really common, and it happens all the time. Michaels will charge me back at least 10% on every invoice. And I knew that if I screwed this stuff up, Walmart would do the exact same thing, and I would just whittle down my margin, and it was totally avoidable because all I had to do was learn it. But let me tell you this, it was so brutal and uncomfortable. I would rather make 100 videos in a week and pitch to the sharks at the same time than go through this process again. It was a struggle. I was stressing. But eventually the POs started to come through. We started to get orders. The Consolidator started shipping. And then I ran into a challenge. Turns out the invoicing wasn't working. So I had to work with my right hand, Nikki, and we had to go back through every single invoice that we had been shipping and invoice Walmart manually, meaning we had to type it out, upload it, PO by PO, invoice by invoice. And remember, we're getting lots of POs and invoices, not just one big one. So it was a big lift. Not to mention, we don't get paid for 90 days. Not 90 days from the time the PO is issued, 90 days from when we invoice. So I'm out all the cash, I've jumped through all these hoops, and now I'm gonna get paid even later because the invoicing system wasn't working, and I had to manually invoice for like 8 months before we finally got it connected and working properly. Now, Walmart was getting shipped to, they were selling units, things were moving, it was going good. I'm babysitting the connections, just checking in on stuff, making sure the Consolidator gets paid, making sure that things have gone through properly, and okay, it's working. This is not so bad, right? This feels good. Like, this is way less work in the interim than I thought it would be. All the work is front loaded. That's what's actually really cool about retail. The hardest part of retail is the very beginning, and I jumped through those hoops and I did it. And about 1.5 years after being set up, I got an email from our buyer saying that we owed them $140,000 because of an accounting error. What? How can an accounting error add up to $140,000? Turns out, when all the paperwork was entered into the system, one number was wrong. The price that they were paying us. You see, they're selling a marker for $14.99 in their stores, and I charged them $7.49, 50% margin, pretty standard. They were paying us $14.99. So based on their math, for the entire relationship of the business up to this point, I owed them $140,000. Oh, could you imagine getting that email? Seeing like, I could pay this off, but it's going to take all my money. Oh, that sucked. That was a tough day. So here's what happened. I went in with Nikki and Nick, and we audited every single invoice by hand. Remember when I said that we had to do manual invoicing? We invoiced for the proper amount. Okay? So I knew that there were some discrepancies. Turns out after 3 weeks of brutally going through like 1,000 POs, we owed him about $44,000. So I reached out to him, I showed him the math, I proved it to him, and I cut a check. It sucked. Now, I'm not blaming Walmart here. Okay, if anything, it's on me. I should have double-checked the paperwork. I should have noticed the discrepancy and rectified it sooner. I didn't. I just didn't look. I just strawberries and rainbows, right? So this is not big bad corporate coming for the little guy. It really was a mistake. But I had to own it and I had to take my medicine. So I did. About 6 months later, after things are going good and I've taken my medicine, the buyer goes on maternity leave and never comes back to Walmart. All the rapport and relationship I had built up with this person, gone out the window. Now I'm dealing with like the merchandise manager, right? While they're slotting new people in, and I'm, talking to this person a little bit, talking to this person a little bit, and then they get a new buyer. So I've got to start this process all over. This new buyer comes in, talks to the GM. They decide that they're going to kind of wind down this whole category. Not kind of, but what I mean is basically they were ending their relationship with us. After all that work, we lost the Walmart account. I wish I could tell you that it was a decision made in Bentonville that had nothing to do with us. But when I think about it, the discrepancy with the numbers, the fact that we were only in 500 stores, we weren't flying off the shelves, we were selling through. Yeah, I like to think that it had nothing to do with me, but it probably did. I probably just wasn't good enough. I should have been better. My product could have been better. My packaging could have been better. I could have been more proactive. There's a lot of things I could have done. But regardless, we lost that account. And I had to just stomach it. I tried a lot of different things. I had meetings with them. I reached out to them, and they didn't want to. They didn't want to do it. They just said, hey, if you blow it up on Walmart.com online, sure, we can talk about it. But no, we're winding this stuff down. We're basically axing this category and you along with it. Sick. All that work. 2.5 years. Yeah, it sucked. In fact, I'm still shipping to Walmart, and I will be for about maybe 2 or 3 more months. And then we're done. And then I'm going to have to wind down the consolidator. I'm going to have to get all that orphaned inventory sent back to me. I'm going to have to pay off all those bills. I'm going to have to wind down the EDI and all the connections and all the softwares that go along with it. The money I spent on testing is more or less wasted. And I've got a whole bunch of cardboard sitting in my warehouse that I'm going to have to take to the dump. So let's talk about the numbers really quick, because I mentioned I was going to bring real numbers to the table. In the time that I've been working with Walmart, year to date, I have done $252,125.19. After they clawed back their $44,000 and we fixed the number error, the accounting error, I actually kept about $208,000. If you look at my materials and how much it cost me to supply the product and everything, about 28,000 units, $2 a unit, that's $56,000 in my cost of product. If you factor in the consolidator fees from the beginning till today, I paid the consolidator to ship my product to Walmart $76,218.95. If we factor in the EDI, the electronic data interchange, that's $700 a month. That's about $23,000. Cardboard, $10,000. The compliance testing and the testing, which we have to do every 2 years, $3,000. When I had to use my own internal team to kit and supplement and my own labor to package all this stuff and get it ready for Walmart, I have to pay them. That was about $2,700. So after 2.5 years and getting paid by Walmart a little over $250,000, I made a net of $37,000. That's about $1,200 a month. Just want to sit with that for a minute. All of that headache, all of that stress, all of those late nights, all of the conversations, all the bandwidth, the opportunity cost for $1,200 a month. Yeah, brutal. But the real killer was my attention. My attention was split. It was pulled from the things that were already working, all that grind I had put in to make the company better. It was just starting to really fire on all cylinders, and my attention was sucked away on something that looked like a win. I should have just focused on what was already working. More content, better products, run the ads, do the tests, take care of my customers. I got distracted. by what I thought was the holy grail of selling a product, getting into Walmart. But here's the scary part. Remember when she wanted to put us in all 4,000 stores? And I asked for 500? Let me give you an example of what it would have been like if I was in all 4,000 stores, because that's 8 times more. I actually have the numbers pulled up right here. Now, when you look at it with the multiple of 8 on it, like on paper, it works really good, right? But paper doesn't pay suppliers, cash does. And in order for me to take on all 4,000 stores, I would have to put out hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I wouldn't get paid back on that money for quite some time. I would have had to spend $80,000 in materials and packaging before making a single sale, just to get set up. That's a lot of cash. Ongoing would be about $150,000, $250,000 to float that 90-day gap from when I was getting paid. That would put serious pressure on my cash flow. No way I could do that. Now, remember that $140,000 error that was made? That would have turned into $1.1 million. Could you imagine writing a check for $1 million because of accounting error? Absolutely freaking not. No, it would have ended us. We would have gone bankrupt. The real lesson here is that the P&L said yes, right? The numbers mathed out and they actually looked really juicy and really good. But my bank account said no, and the bank account always wins. Cash is king. Now, saying no to 3,500 Walmart stores and asking for a test set of 500, that only took 10 seconds. But it was probably the best and the most profitable decision of the entire relationship. Now, if I go back in time and meet young me, I would grab me by the shoulders and I would say, don't do it. Keep your eye on the prize. Do not take your attention away from what's working. Keep the relationship open. Be nice about it. Be friendly. String it along. But do not commit. It is going to set you back and you will be chasing something that won't make you nearly as much money as what you're already doing. Just do more of what's working, dude. Don't chase it. It's a shiny object disguised as an opportunity. You're not ready. But I can't go back and tell him that. You, though, you're probably before that decision. Maybe it's Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, a new distributor, a new channel, whatever your version of the dream email is. Let me give you the questions I'd make you answer before you say yes. There are 3 of them, and they're the same questions that I bring up to people inside Operator Academy. Number 1, can you afford the entry fee? The game's expensive. Can you afford to play it? And I'm not just talking about inventory. I'm talking about the setup and the testing, the kitting, the EDI, the consolidators. You probably have to put lot codes on your product too. You're going to buy a $10,000 lot coding machine to make all this happen? Because most founders only budget for the inventory. They don't budget for all the systems and all the infrastructure and all the overhead that you have to spend before you actually get paid. Question number 2, can you afford the float? Can you afford to not get paid for 90 days? Michaels doesn't pay us for 120 days, net 120. I have to go without getting paid for 120 days. Can you afford that? If you go and spend the money to buy the inventory and do all this setup and get all the cardboard, can you afford to have that cash locked up for 4 to 6 months? A lot of times that answer is no. You have to have money in the bank in order to float that time period. Now run that number up for 4,000 stores instead of the 500 that I dealt with. Yeah, it starts to get crazy. Question 3, can you afford the attention? This is the one that got me. It pulled my attention away. It was a shiny object. It took my eye off the prize and distracted me from doing the things that I should have done more of. More content, better products, test more ads, make better landing pages, talk to my customers, and more. It's pretty much stopped that process. For what? Nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about the opportunity cost. And as you grow in business, the opportunities keep getting better. The shiny objects keep getting shinier. Walmart, stores, are you kidding me? What a great opportunity. It wasn't for me. Now, it's not like retail failed me. Okay? It didn't. I mean, theoretically, it worked. It was profitable. But was it more profitable than doing more of what was already working? No, I doubt it. So let me leave you with this. No doesn't mean never. If I had said no to the buyer and kept the relationship open, there's a good chance we could have worked with them when we were ready and it would have all worked out. Sure, there's a chance it might not have, but I'm way more likely nowadays to say no than I am to say yes, so I can protect my time and attention and truly focus on the things that are actually going to move the needle, which is more of what works. Retail isn't evil. It's just a channel with a price tag that most founders don't fully understand, including myself. So if we were to look at this like an operator, the operator move would be to understand the full price before making that decision. And in this case, I should have said no from a place of strength instead of yes from a place of flattery. The most expensive mistakes, they don't look like mistakes. They look like wins. They're disguised as opportunities. And that right there is why I built Operator Academy. If you're a business owner that sells a product and you're staring down an opportunity like this, whether it's a retailer, a new channel, or whatever the shiny object is, and you don't quite know what deserves your attention, what's working, and where you should put your focus, that's why I built Operator Academy, for that very thing, so that I can look at your business with you through my assessment and say, hey, this is what's working. This is what we need to do more of. All of these things right here are shiny objects. That's what Operator Academy is for. And I love doing it. There's a link below if you want to join us. But maybe you're not there yet. However, opportunities will come knocking. So what I want you to do is before you say yes to that opportunity, I want you to sit down and price it out with the 3 questions that I gave you. Focus on the opportunity cost.